So I always think that data does three things. It brings in, clarity, it brings in commitment, and it brings in a certain comfort level. Clarity because it just lays down on the table all the facts and the situation on the ground. That can then, become the starting point for a dialogue between all stakeholders, which, leads to a kind of a commitment to the project, from both communities as well as from the government. That commitment finally takes you, there's this whole comfort level which gets which gets built in because there's so much transparency that data brings in. And, I find participation actually improves because of that. We did a whole survey of public toilets also over there, and we were able to do an in-depth analysis. And finally, when the part of the project took off, what they had, perceived as would be a good solution was actually they had to reverse the decision in many cases because they realized that the data was showing something else and what they had done was something else. And just the part of the project, we have been able to give them a good feedback, and they have reversed some of the decision, which has saved them a lot of money, in this case about 2.24 crores. We did an infrastructure mapping of all slums. I mean, in some of the smaller cities, we've done 100% infrastructure mapping of all slum, rapid household survey. We engaged with the municipal corporation to get them to validate our data and put out all of this on our website. And today you'll find most of the municipal corporation have linked their data sites to our website. I mean, their website to our data site so that this becomes available in the public domain. I mean, if you look at the slide, you'll find that there was an investment made just on drainage network by 4 or 5 ULBs, which itself amounted to close to 50 crores. And what did data cost? Data was less than 2% of all that it leveraged, in terms of the output. And donors thought it was delightful, doing this data thing because supporting data, because we gave them a fact sheet for every house that received a toilet support from them. And they could actually view it with the link that we provided. So this was the toilet photograph, a little bit about the family, which, gave them the confidence that they could also go and take a look on their own if they wanted to at some point. Way forward, I think, especially now with the COVID pandemic striking us and cities finding it very difficult to monitor and track, COVID patients in slum, the need is for data to be institutionalized within the urban local body. I think one of the bigger needs that is now coming out is that you need to have navigable data also. We are hoping that we will be able to create through the Plus Code app, actually give every house a data which can be ingested into Google Map. So you can very accurately reach a particular hut in case of an emergency or even otherwise. So this, I think, is what needs to happen. Data needs to really, I think it can be a unifying platform, even across government, the different government department.
Data hides much more than it reveals. And I will begin with census, which looks at population. Okay? So for the first time in census, slum census was included, and slum as an entity was recognized in census 2001. Okay? But this national level data was confined only to 200 cities of the country. Had the very interesting repute of becoming the first zero slum population city. Now, did that reflect reality? Subsequently, there were several authorities who pointed out that basically the reason why Lucknow had a zero slum population was because the definition of slum used in census was linked to administrative recognition or declaration of a settlement as a slum. So Lucknow had no declared slums, and therefore it had a zero slum population. Okay. When census 2011 was conducted, the then urban development minister, Ajay Makhan, he said actually that his estimation of the shortfall or the non-recognition of population within the slum data was to the extent of roughly 37%. That is why I say data is political. It is extremely vulnerable to how it is defined, how metadata is actually created, categories are created, and how those categories are imposed upon actual reality. Therefore, if we have to really uh, kind of counter this hegemony, then also we can use data. And for that, data has to be more empowering, data has to be more democratic, and data has to be in people's hands. In the current development plan preparation of Mumbai, I actually encountered an experience where a same research institution produced two different sets of demographic projections for Mumbai. Okay, one was used for a version of the plan which was discarded. Okay, and the second was used for a version of the plan which now is being the revised development plan of Mumbai. Okay. So having seen these kind of experiences makes me very agnostic about data. I definitely do not believe in the supremacy of data. I believe that data is political, but at the same time, data is very, very important. And if we make data more democratic, if data is known and kept in the public domain, made available to large sets of people, data is something then which can also be retained.
One of the outcomes that we had hoped for this session was to, if there are any lessons or any reflections on the model of affordable housing provisions in India, that what are those things, even after running in mission mode, that some things have worked, some things have not worked. What are the challenges at a broader policy level?
I think we are almost assuming that land is flat. And everywhere, I think affordable housing projects are failing. The two most reasons are A, that we are not looking at the price of land at all, okay? The real price of land, and the factors which are on one hand trying to speculate in that price of land, and are also those same factors which make housing unaffordable.
What surprised me about the PMAY verticals was that, slums were completely getting left out of it because they couldn't, especially in smaller cities. I mean, they can't come under affordable, for reasons like they're not economically viable really on the ground if you look at it. Or if you look at, beneficiary-led construction, that was also not a possibility because people don't own the land. Only if you own the land, you can avail of something like that. So all the four verticals that were chalked out, actually, if you looked at it practically on the ground, it completely excluded the slum dwellers. With data, it again depends on who's using it, who is wielding it, who is fighting for it. All that I think makes a lot of difference.